Hey everyone, Taylor here, and you're listening to the Bonfire Briefing Podcast. Today my guest is the Vice Chair of the Tennessee Libertarian Party and the Libertarian candidate for governor in Tennessee, Lemichael Wilson. We talked about ballot access reform, high-speed rail, Roe v. Wade, and more. Hope you guys enjoy the show. All right, we're good to go. Lemichael Wilson, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Oh yeah, absolutely. The pleasure is all mine. When you followed the podcast and I saw that notification, I saw you were running for governor in Tennessee. I think I told you I'm living in Texas now, but I'm from Tennessee, and I saw that you were libertarian running for governor there. I was like, I've got to get this guy on the podcast. That checks a lot of boxes for me, and what I'm looking for personally, in a governor candidate. Of course, I don't live in Tennessee anymore, but it seemed like we'd be able to have a pretty interesting conversation, I think.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to be able to share my vision with you and the listeners as it relates to how we can grow Tennessee, how we can reduce government and increase the liberties and freedoms of the people that reside in Tennessee, as well as business owners and various public and private sectors.
Yeah, and on that, I kind of wanted to start off just by asking you. I did some research on you before you came on, and you've done a couple different things in life: retired pastor, restaurateur. I wanted to know what, and I know you ran for mayor of Memphis previously in the last cycle. So I was just wondering how. I wanted to hear from you in your words, your journey to launching this campaign for governor.
Well, it was never like a life goal to be a politician or to run for governor. I did pastor when I was in Chicago, and then I came to back to Memphis, which is my hometown, and I opened my restaurant there. I started my restaurant in 2005 when I left the city colleges of Chicago, and when I came back to Memphis, I opened in Memphis, and what I saw was a marginalization and disenfranchisement of the people from governmental resources. And it was disheartening because individuals who had been elected to raise the floor for the people that live in the city were not doing that. So I decided to run for mayor. And much of all of the positions that I've ever had, they ultimately have one thing in common, and that is being a nurturer. So being a pastor at one time, you nurture the people who are your congregants, and they attach themselves to the ministry. And so I ran for mayor, which is another nurturing position. And what led me to run for governor is, once again, the people, looking at how many people have been marginalized by state policies that it just seemed to be most apropos to do that. And primarily because, as the vice chair of the Libertarian Party of Tennessee, we saw the marginalization, specifically with us, as we're considered to be a minor party. And state law allows Republicans, Democrats, and independents to get ballot access with only 25 signatures. But for libertarians and any other minor party, we're required by law to get 2.5% of the number of people who voted in the last gubernatorial election. So this election cycle, that would have been 56,083 signatures for us to be on the ballot. And what that does is it allows people to be able to go to the poll, see on that ballot our designated letter, which is the L, and you know what the candidate stands for. As an independent, you really don't know what individuals stand for. So there's a recognizable competition when we have our party affiliation listed. That was one. The other, though, is the duopoly, be it the Republicans and the Democrats, operate in a capacity to eliminate any type of competitive, recognizable competition. So that then disenfranchises the vote. It suppresses the vote because individuals may not want to associate themselves with Republicans and Democrats, and by their option, with their candidate option not being available, then oftentimes they don't engage in the voting process. And that was part of the main reason that I decided to run for governor, is that we want to be able to affect ballot access so that all candidates have equal access, not equitable, but equal access, that if it is that the number will be 2.5%, then everybody has to get 2.5%. Or if it's going to be 25 signatures, then all candidates should be able to get 25 signatures for whatever race that they run throughout the entire state.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up too, because when I was doing some research to prepare for this podcast, that was the thing that blew my mind. I read, I think Liberty Whip wrote a Substack article about you, and it laid out exactly what you just did, that independents, Republicans, and Democrats only need 25 signatures to get on the ballot, and you had to get, like you said, I think 50 something thousand, and that blew my mind. I mean, it's obviously, one, it's obviously unfair, and two, it's obviously something that, like you said, the duopoly that we have between the Democratic Party and the Republican Party, it's easy to see why they don't want, the Libertarian Party or any other third party candidates gaining any momentum and threatening the structure that they've built up. I'm curious, did you know before you ran that you would need to get 50,000 plus signatures to get on the ballot, or was that something you found out in the process?
Yes, very much aware that we would have to get that 56,000 signatures, and part of our conversation as a state party was being able to sue the state for equal ballot access. And in doing so, we believe that it would be advantageous to show the judge how difficult it is to acquire 56,000 signatures. So that was part of the push in running for office, is being able to show a judge how difficult it is, how challenging it is to get 56,000 signatures. But I love competition, so I was in to get the 56,000, and it then puts us in a catch-21, because if we get the 56,000, then a judge could potentially say, well, if you got the signatures, then I don't see what the problem is. So it's still problematic, though, that no candidate or any candidate that is outside of being a Republican, Democrat, or independent has to jump through hoops and leap over hurdles in order to be able to represent the people that would ideally vote for them.
Right. Yeah. And it's, I mean, it's especially relevant now in a time where, I feel like maybe more people than ever are looking for something other than, a Democrat or a Republican. They don't feel represented by either party. I very much so consider myself in that same boat. And like you said, with like, yeah, you can run as an independent, but like you said, there's nothing on the ballot that gives people any indication of what you believe. An independent that could be anybody, running
Exactly.
on that ballot. It could be any random person that got 25 signatures can run as an independent. You don't know anything about who they are.
Exactly, or what they stand for. As a libertarian, and I've had individuals ask me questions about platform and things of that nature. And at the end of the day, my platform aligns itself with the national platform. I have been endorsed to run by the Libertarian Party of Tennessee. So as it relates to certain issues, the platform is going to directly mirror what the National Party has established for our positions on certain issues and concerns. And beyond that, I believe that the people elect individuals into office so that they can best advocate and structure policies around what it is that they would have. And that's why I believe that more legislation should be done at the local level. You elect city and county officials. Those are the individuals that should be able to construct the legislation for a particular area, and not necessarily the state.
Oh, absolutely. I was curious. You're the vice chair of the Libertarian Party there in Tennessee, and you said that your platform largely reflects the Libertarian Party as a whole. I'm curious, how did you get into being a libertarian? I mean, it's like, how did you find yourself exploring libertarianism, and then how did that lead you to becoming the vice chair of the state party there?
I was a libertarian before I knew anything about the Libertarian Party. I had already formulated my own belief system, and oftentimes what happens is individuals will assume the political affiliation of their household. So I grew up in a Democratic household. People around me were Democrats, and that is what seemed to be what was supposed to be common, and I did not find my place there. Many of the platform items for the Republican Party I did embrace, but I did not embrace the party. It did not feel comfortable. So once I started looking at other parties and looked at the Green Party and the Libertarian Party, Constitutional Party, and things of that nature, I thought that my personal beliefs aligned more with the Libertarian Party, because at the end of the day, I just believe in minimum government and more freedoms and liberties given to the people. And that's what the party stands for.
Right. And that's why I think that, this ballot access reform that you're pushing for is so important, because I feel like there are so many people that are in that same boat that you're in, that I'm in. I mean, there's so many people that just don't feel represented by either party. And, having libertarian candidates on the ballot, not restricted by these ridiculous laws that are in place, is really important for people to know who's running. And then, people do their own research. People, they vote for, a lot of people vote for the candidate, not necessarily the party next to their name. So, I mean, people would be able to look up these libertarian candidates who are running and see that, oh, hey, there is a party that's, speaking up for what I believe in, like you said, limited government, more freedoms, that kind of, I mean, that's a message that resonates with everyone.
For sure. I mean, at the end of the day, consumers, individuals, people should be able to make the choices for their lives. I own a restaurant, and government will make laws or ordinances that dictate what we can and cannot do, when at the end of the day, people should be able to make a choice whether they want to patronize a business that either supports what they want or does not. It should not be government legislating that. I always address the analogy or the situation with seatbelt laws. We all buy our own cars. We know that seatbelts can either provide safety, or it can provide some safety measures, and we know what the hazards are that are without wearing seatbelts. So, but at the end of the day, it is the individual's choice that is in that vehicle to make that decision, because now what we see is law enforcement officers issuing tickets for not wearing a seatbelt. So there's a penalty for not wearing a seatbelt. And oftentimes those penalties are issued in areas of poverty. Some communities have a higher poverty. There are more tickets written in those areas than they are. So it's not equitable across the board. And but at the end of the day, it should be a decision that the individual wants to make and not be financially penalized for that. Same difference with I stand for eliminating money bail on certain type of infractions. We're penalizing individuals for living in poverty. Uh, you know, for a case of minor possession, and you give an individual a bond of $10,000, they may not be able to afford that. So consequently, they end up staying in jail, staying incarcerated. They lose their jobs. They're not able to provide for their families. And there's absolutely no reason, because they pose absolutely no risk to the community or themselves. And government needs to step back and allow people to be able to be free to live their lives without the oversight that government is doing.
Oh, absolutely. And those are two, really great examples of where government is, very clearly overstepping their boundary. And like you said, penalizing people for not being able to afford those tickets and that bail. One great thing I love about your website actually is that when you scroll down a little, your website literally has a Venn diagram, and it shows kind of where you agree with the Democrats, where you agree with the Republicans, and then in the middle, kind of more where there's some common ground, more libertarian policies. I'm wondering, as you're out campaigning and really solidifying your message, what are some of the big policies that you're focusing on and talking to people about?
So I am definitely talking about ending no-knock warrants. We've seen law enforcement kick in doors, finding themselves in the wrong property, things of that nature. I just believe that there has to be a better way of executing a warrant. So I stand against the party stands against no warrant, ending eminent domain, ending civil asset forfeiture. We have so many people who are losing their property, oftentimes on egregious charges, and we need to do better by the people. I just believe that we can do better. I would like to see our district attorneys throughout the entire state not prosecute no victim crimes. If there's no victim, then where's the crime? Because government should only exist to protect the rights and liberties of the people. So if the rights and liberties have not been violated or infringed upon, then there's absolutely no need for government to intervene. And then, there are some others where I call them see the possibility moments, where if we see the possibilities of having an intrastate hyperlink transportation system that can connect our major cities quicker than it takes for ground travel and air travel. I would love to be able to move from Memphis to Nashville in an hour for lunch or something. Or, if somebody lives in Nashville and works in Chattanooga, and they don't necessarily have to drive, they could take the Hyperloop and be able to have access to employment opportunities outside of their immediate area. It improves our tourism. You can fly into Nashville and maybe do a concert and then take the transit system to Memphis to do Beale Street. And then it also improves our air quality as we talk about improving environmental justice, that, we don't have as many cars on the highway, and having that type of transit system would reduce our carbon imprint. There are just so many things that we can be doing that improves the quality of life in our state for everyone.
Yeah, well, as someone who's driven across Tennessee a number of times from, from Memphis all the way to East Tennessee. I mean, I'd love to see something like that that would shorten that drive. I mean, my God,
Oh, for sure.
yeah, it's a bit of a pain in the ass to make if you have to. I mean, what would getting a transit system like that look like? I know California wanted to build, I can't remember how many miles of high speed rail, but it ended up being, as as everything else in California seems to, just a massive cost.
Right.
Um,
So I believe that when I've never seen anything work when government has put its hands in it. But I think that what government could do is foster relationships with the private sector to be able to put something like that together, to establish it. And I mean, we have the land in between the roads now as you're driving up and down the highway. The land is there to be able to put such a system together. And I think that we just have to be able to explore those opportunities, and not have it be a tax burden on the citizens. I believe in eliminating and reducing taxes, and some things we could possibly crowdfund. There are other ways to generate capital and revenues in order to sustain projects rather than always taxing citizens and businesses.
right. There's another issue that's been in the news quite a bit the past couple of weeks, not just in Tennessee but nationwide, is Roe v. Wade. It looks like
Hmm.
Roe v. Wade is going to be overturned this summer whenever the Supreme Court, releases the final opinion. And I know Bill Lee just recently criminalized abortion pills being distributed via mail.
Correct.
And there's some split in the Libertarian Party on abortion. There are quite a few pro-life libertarians that probably don't mind seeing Roe v. Wade overturned, and there are other libertarians that see it as government intruding where they don't need to be. I was wondering where you fall on abortion generally, Roe v. Wade overturned. What's your opinion there?
So at the base, um, Roe v. Wade gave or gives an individual the choice. And I believe that everyone should have the choice to make whatever decisions for their lives, and not government um, um, being involved in those choices. I
Mhm.
believe I am pro family. Let me establish that right off the bat. I am pro family. I don't believe in abortion. That is
Mhm.
my personal belief. Um, at the end of the day, though, I don't believe that government should make the choices for individuals as it relates to their education or their medical. I think that as a pro family advocate, those are decisions that families need to be able to make with their medical practitioners, within the educational field, or whatever is applicable to that issue. So I think that Roe v. Wade should be a state level. Uh, there should be decisions made at the state level as it relates to the choices that individuals will be able to make, and then that allows citizens to be able to move to areas that better align with their personal beliefs. I mean, we see it all the time. We see individuals move into communities uh, for better school options.
Mhm.
If there are some choices that individuals want to make as it relates to their health care, education, or business and things of that nature, then that should be the choice of the individual and not the government. We see individuals make choices to bring their businesses to Tennessee primarily because there's no income tax. So,
Right.
at the end of the day, my position is just always about consumers and individuals having more freedom to make the choices that they need to make, and it is not my place to regulate any of those choices that people have.
Yeah, yeah, that's a very fair, very a lot more nuanced than a lot of the takes on uh, a Roe v. Wade that you see out, in more mainstream news.
And
sources.
let me also say, though, because I know that the time is short, let me also say that um, I find it disheartening that the Supreme Court would somehow leak uh, uh, the brief
Mhm.
right the day before the primary. It allows, in my opinion, uh, the Republican and Democratic parties to engage their voter base to try to get them to the polls because they recognize that most people vote emotionally and not based upon some research. So I think that that's a manipulation of the people, that they're really not concerned about whether it was about being able to have an abortion or not have an abortion, or a woman's right to choose. And then I also want to say that it opens the door for more of a of the conversation around the rights of trans individuals, and how legislation will probably be forthcoming as it relates to them being able to have medical procedures to better align, in their opinion, with the way that they live their lives. I think that government, that the Republicans and Democrats are playing with that type of situation to make sure that they can provide oversight into those type of choices. But where does it stop? Will it stop where interracial couples are having a child, and government decides that we don't want to have mixed babies, and things of that nature? Government should not be involved in making those type decisions. Those should be decisions that families make, and we need to start looking at electing individuals into office who are genuinely concerned about advancing the concerns of the people organically, and raising the floor for the people who have been marginalized, and giving them back their freedoms, and stop government from infringing upon their rights.
Oh, yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think that's, I mean, that's definitely crucial. It has to be a part of the conversation going forward about how, both parties are guilty in that. And our time is short here. We have to wrap up here soon. I just want to kind of close out by asking, how is the campaign trail going? I know I saw you had an event in Knoxville. It looked like a pretty good crowd, and then I think afterwards you guys went out and ate lunch and or dinner or whatever, and continued the conversation. Man, how has the campaign trail been treating you, and what's on the horizon for the Wilson for Governor campaign?
So the campaign trail has been extremely excellent. People have been welcoming. We're finding that individuals are frustrated with their elected officials, and they're looking for something different. And they are embracing the campaign. The challenge is just being able to get out and be more engaged with everyone, and sharing that message. That is the biggest challenge of crossing the state, and doing that with limited resources. So we're constantly working to raise monies to support the campaign, and not to have a big war chest, but to be able to just afford the things that we need in order to be effective and competitive. Yes, we did go, and we ate afterwards, and then we went and smoked cigars at the cigar lounge that was right across the street. I believe in supporting small businesses throughout the state, and whenever we have an opportunity to engage in small businesses and support them, that's what I plan to do around the state, and bring attention to some of the businesses, and encourage individuals to support them if they're in the area. We have a lot of things that are being planned. I think the biggest is going to be July 2nd. We're in the process of planning a launch for the campaign in Murfreesboro, and hopefully we can have more information about that in the next couple weeks, so that individuals can come to Murfreesboro and connect and get engaged, and hopefully we can go from there. As we talk about ballot access,
Mhm.
I'll be very clear about it, is that I was the only, out of all of our candidates that are running, all of them have submitted their paperwork as independents. I was the only one that submitted my paperwork as a libertarian, and as such, the establishment has moved to invalidate my signatures so that I would not be on the ballot. But that does not stop me from running, because we're pushing a write-in campaign right now, and it is the largest write-in campaign that this state would have ever seen. We are going to all 95 counties to submit our paperwork so that individuals who write my name in their ballot cast will be accepted, and we're connecting with everybody around the state. I am excited about it, and I look forward to being the next governor of the great state of Tennessee.
Man, I'm excited about it too. I'm real excited to see where it goes. And if anyone listening wants to support you in your campaign with a donation, you can go to lemichaelwilson.com and donate there on the website. Whenever you do nail down the details for that Murfreesboro event, let me know so I can help blast that out, man. I'm excited to see where the campaign goes and, what it has in store for you, and follow your journey as the general election approaches, and just want to say, really appreciative that you came on the show today. I'm glad we had this conversation.
Thank you for having me.
All right, we'll have you back anytime, man. Really glad that we finally got this done. Thanks for being on.
Thank you. All right, have a good one.
All right, you too.
Bye.
Bye. That was my conversation with Lemichael Wilson, Libertarian candidate for governor of Tennessee and the vice chair of the Tennessee Libertarian Party. I'm really glad we got to talk in depth about ballot access reform, because when I read about Lemichael's situation, it blew my mind. It's bullshit that Democrats, Republicans, and independents only need 25 ballot signatures, but Lemichael needed over 50,000. But anyway, if you liked what you heard from Lemichael on this episode, please consider supporting his campaign for governor with a donation at lemichaelwilson.com. Hope you guys enjoyed the show.